This week on Top Gear, 3 new rovers cunningly disguised as superheroes.
No, not these. These!
Welcome to the sexy side of Rover, which from this point forwards will be known as MG.
Tonight on Top Gear, Z cars are back driving the new MGs. The best supporting actor is TVR and regurgitated sushi, some tasty used bargains from Japan.
All this speed stuff is very confusing. I know we're constantly told to slow down and threatened that if we speed on the roads, the polar ice caps will melt. But at the same time, we'll try anything if it makes us go faster. And car manufacturers tempt us with a profusion of more sporty versions of their machinery.
Take these MG Z cars. They're amongst the very fastest rover saloons ever built. Except, of course, that they're not rovers at all. You can go over all 3 of these with a fine tooth comb and you will not find a rover badge anywhere.
But of course, we know that they're rovers, really. This one is the 25, this the 45, and the big red one, the 75.
So what better way to truly test these new MGs than to bring them here to a racetrack where I can really push them to the limits, experience their outer handling extremes.
The producers of Top Gear would like it to be known that the show is not all about smoking tyres. We take the launch of 3 new British cars very seriously and feel it is crucial that we test them in a mature and considered manner. Only after that will we go absolutely mad.
So, MGs that are really rovers. Why try to pretend that these are completely new cars from a different brand?
Well, it's not enough these days to serve up your hotted hatch with a GTI badge glued on. You have to give your performance models some motorsport credibility.
See that? Now you might think that that's a BMW 3 Series. Wrong. That is an M3 constructed by BMW's motorsport division. You might be familiar with them. They're doing rather well in Formula 1 at the moment.
And you may think that this is simply a brightly coloured Seat Leon. No, 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 no. It is a Leon Cupra. And Cupra stands for Cup Racing, and it inextricably links this car with Seat's successful rally team. Well, at least they think it does.
Look, this is how the manufacturers want you to think it is. This is their big factory where they build most of their cars. It's inhabited by good, reliable, conscientious workers who do a generally fine job of nailing your car together. But this place around the back is the Motorsport Centre. Now this place is full of high-tech stuff made of titanium and microchips, and it is inhabited by highly skilled technicians and racing engineers, people who do this kind of stuff.
So, Rover is using the MG badge as their performance mark. And to provide that all-important motorsport credibility, they've already made a noisy trip to Le Mans and intend to take the new Z cars both racing and rallying as soon as possible.
So while your everyday rovers rattle off the Longbridge production line, next door in shiny laboratories, automotive alchemists are creating these Z cars.
The Rover 25 becomes the ZR, the 45 becomes the ZS, and the 75 becomes the ZT.
So what better way to truly test these new MGs than to bring them here to a racetrack where I can really push them to their limits, explore their outer...
No wonder he's so excited. Rover's talented engineers are free at last to unleash their car's full potential. Now, reborn as MGs, these 3 have all been given big power hikes, chassis tweaks, uprated suspensions and striking body mods. Nor are they going to cost the earth. Move over, Rover, and let MG take over.
You see, MG, is adamant that these 3 new models have had a genuine high-performance makeover.
The history is there, the heritage is there, the goodwill might have taken all sorts of knocks over the years, but it's still there too. Damn it, the cars even look good.
But the big question still remains. Are they any good to drive? Can you teach old dogs new tricks? We'll find out later.
Last year I came here to Los Angeles to see the making of a Hollywood blockbuster, and I was lucky enough to be able to join its budding British star on location. The movie is Swordfish, an action thriller starring John Travolta as the coolest man in the world. Well, he'd have to be with a haircut like that.
Too bad, you gotta die.
It also sees the Hollywood debut of one of our top sporting heroes. No, not Vinnie Jones, the TVR Tuscan.
It took my breath away when I first saw it. You look cool in a car like that. I mean, you know, you just look cool. You could be a 90-year-old guy, and you look pretty cool in that car.
Cool, but unavailable. TVRs aren't yet on sale in the US due to costly emissions legislation, but their scarcity provided a real attraction to Hollywood.
Because it was scripted as a Lamborghini Diablo, which is a fantastic car, but it's a little played out cinematically.
To Americanize this is far more exotic than anything that Ferrari or Lamborghini do. And it's just that bit more exotic to have a set of Preston number plates on it than it would be to have the California ones.
So I kind of put the bug into our transportation department and our picture vehicle coordinator, Randy White, and like, please talk to these people.
We got an email from a guy called Randy saying we'd like a car for the next John Travolta movie. And my reaction, being a fairly cynical person, was like, oh yeah, right.
But it wasn't a wind-up, and soon TVR was sending 4 identical Tuscans over from Blackpool to Los Angeles, together with their man with a spanner, Mike Vernon.
We've got one main car, which is just for street shots and a clean car, and then we sent 3 more over, which one's have camera mounts fitted to it, and the other 2 are, one's got bullet holes going in the side of it, and then we've got the last one, which is for racing around the streets and handbrake turning and whatever they wish to do with it. And they told me what they want to do. Then I've worked with the American mechanic that's worked before with stunt drivers, and he tells me what they want, translates it in English to me, and we try and work it out.
Top Gear joined the production in downtown LA to shoot the film's big car chase. It's work that requires meticulous planning, ingenuity, and a large supply of toy cars. Then, after all the stunt drivers have done their stuff, it was time on set for JT and his co-star Hugh Jackman.
What's going on? We've got a tail. Hold on.
It drives more like a race car to me than even a street car. And I got to drive it. And Hugh got to drive it.
We'll have to improvise. Take the wheel. What? Take the wheel!
He got to drive it more than I did. I got to shoot guns out of it.
I mean, we're fairly politically incorrect, so we don't care whether we get the good guy or the bad guy, as long as he's cool. And I mean, and this character is just perfect.
Next up was the end to the car chase, and the crew were set up down a seedy alley where the local residents were already getting pretty excited at the thought of seeing a star. Each shot takes around 3 hours to complete, and now it was time for the big finale.
That's the vehicle. And on this track and those cables, it's going to launch this way, and underneath this plate you're standing on here, and when the vehicle gets right here, it's going to launch head over heels and go into this restaurant here.
Meanwhile, the star TVR was being replaced by its own stunt double.
We don't actually fire a bullet into the car. We have to essentially pre-make a hole, load it with a small pyrotechnic charge, and then seal the hole back up with resin and body filler type materials and paint over it so it looks pristine like a finished car panel. And those charges are electrically triggered. They're all wired, hundreds of wires. If there's hundreds of holes, you got hundreds of wires that run back to a sequencing box. So these charges fire and they blow the material out of the hole, revealing the bullet impact.
Finally, all was set. Lights, cameras. Blackpool will never feel the same again.
Still to come on Top Gear, the best bargains from Japan. Plus, will Tiff get his wish and blast the MGZs? So what are the Z cars really like? Vix and I had a heated debate. Now, the thing about this car, initially when I drove it, it was like, this is amazing, it's so brisk, it's so fast, I couldn't believe there was a Rover 25 underneath. This really is fast. This is a lot of fun as well.
It does feel very heavy on the front end, you know, when you turn in. Handling-wise, this car isn't up with the best of the hot hatches, but at least it is an improvement on the standard 25s.
Feels friendly enough. Stays balanced. The steering's not very good, is it?
No, not very good at all.
What about the way it looks, then? Do we like it?
I like the alloys, they're quite pretty.
No, they've done a reasonable job with the way it looks, haven't they? You've got to say. Well, when you're not looking out the window, your fingers are all over these ghastly indicator stalks. My goodness, they should have been pensioned off years ago.
The trim around the air system is horrible. I tell you what I really do like is the yellow leather bits inside. I'm not too sure about that sort of Star Trekky trim in the middle of it.
It looks like James T. Kirk's uniform, doesn't it? This is the entry-level car, so this is the one that's got to snare all the whippersnappers. The PlayStation generation, you know, I mean...
It has a decent engine, that's probably the best thing going for it.
The 158 BHP ZR160 takes just 7.4 seconds to get to 60 and accelerates on to 131 miles per hour. The current range topper until next year's even faster Rally Drive Special, it costs £14,345. So, more of a miss than a hit, the ZR 25.
Jason?
Yes, Vic?
Do you know, this car scores big points with me because of one thing.
What's that, then?
This spoiler.
Oh, you've got to be joking. It's dreadful.
I love it.
Who would have thought that a made-over Rover 45 would sound like this for a start? Just slingshots you out of the roundabouts on the most amazing kind of wave of torque.
This feels the most agile and lightest of the three. Above 4,000 RPM, it takes on a little gravelly noise, which is very nice.
And I mean, look at the front of it. Does that not remind you of something?
BMW.
BMW 3 Series? In fact, the whole car to me feels like the BMW 3 Series used to feel like. I can't believe the irony of that, you know? And the best thing is, MG has always been about affordable performance. And this thing is going to be about £16,300. You get an awful lot of bang for your buck, as they used to say. Inside, bits of blue leather. You know, I think they must have spent all their budget on the spoiler.
Quite right,
There's nothing left. There's a few wee strips of shiny stuff in there. Captain Kirk's in there as well, isn't he?
I quite like those shiny bits. The dash is absolutely dull as ditch water. Nothing has been done to this by the looks of it. Oh, apart from this trim.
Somehow, they've managed to find some element of genius in this car. It's really punchy, the brakes are good. Yeah, no wonder they're confident about being able to go racing in this thing. The four-door ZS 180 costs £16,395, 800 more than the five-door. Its 2.5-litre V6 gives it a top speed of 139 miles per hour and a 0 to 60 time of 7.3 seconds. Fast, yes, but not as fast as next year's touring car version.
This is the one that I would buy if I was desperate for an MG and a good value for money car.
I'll tell you what, you could just unscrew the spoiler and put it in the middle of your living room. It's comfortable in here, isn't it?
It is very comfortable. It's very spacious. Engine sounds quite fruity. does feel a big, solid car.
This feels great. I even quite like the interior now as well, because all the wood's gone.
I'll tell you what I don't like too much are the dials.
No, I quite like them. God, it really does feel like a BMW. I can't get over this. And it pulls, and it pulls, and it pulls. It's a very, very sweet engine, this. Well, I think it's really tasty.
I do. I really, really do. I love.
Whoa, look at that, look at that. Angry face.
The gear change is actually very, very nice and meaty.
So let's see, what have we got? We've got terrific steering, we've got no body roll, and yet a very comfortable, compliant ride, and we have got, I have to be honest with you, a glorious engine here.
And for the handling, I have to say, it has got tons of grip.
Huge amount of
grip. It feels
grip.
really, really beefy.
Good brakes. Nice, nice throttle response. It really does feel like it. God, it even sounds like an M3. 2/3 of a BMW M3 for exactly half the price of a BMW M3, and I think that's a hell of an achievement, I really do.
I think they have pulled it out of the bag.
Yeah, this is going to go well, I think.
The 141 mph ZT costs from £20,495. Its 190 bhp V6 gets it to 60 in 7.8 seconds. But next spring sees the arrival of two V8 engined rear drive ZTs.
We like it.
Here we have a couple of concrete cows and a second-hand Japanese car. Now, they might not look like they've got much in common, but they're in fact inextricably linked. You see, nobody loves either man-made beast or what they stand for. But if you gave them half a chance, you could just change your mind.
You've all heard of Milton Keynes and you'll be familiar with the name Nissan. But just because they don't come steeped in heritage and don't grab you by the throat doesn't mean they're not worth bothering with. In fact, the complete opposite is true.
Right, let's tackle the difficult bits first. Not all of Milton Keynes is pretty, and neither is a Nissan Primera GT. In fact, inside and out, it's got all the bonhomie of a first night in prison. But it's all about personality, and the GT's got more of that than it knows what to do with.
There are things I can't see. Beneath its business-like shell is a true sporting saloon. It's got a 2-litre, 147 brake horsepower engine, which does 0 to 60 in 8.5 seconds, and a top speed of 136 miles an hour.
Fun? Remember that? Well, just like the big MK, the Primera GT has got hidden talents. Forget the looks, because this car is a good laugh to drive. From the moment you start it up, it shrugs off its image like Reggie Perrin running into the sea. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Because it's no Mel Gibson and there's a newer Primera on the scene, you can get these cars at knockdown prices considering their talents. A 97 car with average mileage has dropped below 6k, and there's plenty of kit to get excited about as well.
If you like cheap black plastic. All that power through the front wheels can eat tyres, so check them. Look at the body spoilers for damage. The 2-litre engine had a rattle on cold startup, which should disappear after a few seconds, but if it persists, get it looked at before you buy. Overall, it's not pretty, but it does the job.
But not all interesting Japanese cars are ugly. Oh no, some you've just forgotten about. Take the Honda Prelude. It's been around for donkey's years, but you just can't quite place it, and you're not sure what it's all about.
The Prelude, which ran from 92 to 97, is one of their best-looking cars to date. Put that together with superbly strong mechanicals, and you've got a coupe which could easily hold its ground over anything that Germany has to offer.
Now, the trick with Japanese cars is you can have a laugh driving them and then toss the keys over to your granny and she can go for a burn as well. They're that easy. Car anoraks might complain they're not rear-wheel drive, but whoever paid any attention to one of those geeks?
Make sure the 4-wheel steering works. You can do this by waggling the steering wheel when stationary and watching rear wheel movement. And watch the tyre wear for uneven wheel alignment. But on the whole, you should be laughing.
A few of these cars do fall into the hands of wide boys who like to add their own touches. So any cars with add-ons, non-standard alloys or performance-rated stickers should be given a wide berth.
So what should you pay for a decent Prelude? Well, 4,000 quid will see you with a reasonable car, and £5,000 will see you with a low-mileage, late example.
Now, an interesting saloon and sporty coupe are all very well, but some Japanese cars deserve to be real legends.
When the Toyota Supra was launched, it was the first time you could own a full-blooded sports car without being on first-name terms with your local servicing agent. The Supra still looks like it's just proud out of a futuristic manga comic. There aren't many cars that are this imposing for the price. Just $15,000 for a nice low-mileage automatic, up to $20,000 for a manual. But styling is just half the story. Under the bonnet, you've got a 3-litre twin-turbo straight 6, which is worth 326 brake horsepower. Put this in real terms, that means 0 to 60 in just below 5 seconds for the manual. The top speed has been restricted to 155 miles an hour, otherwise it would go into orbit. It's a very, very fast car indeed. Now, it won't be too long before you can be shot for having a performance car. But the Supra doesn't just do fast, it does luxury as well. The following all come as standard: ABS, CD player, leather, aircon, heated electric seats, speed responsive front spoiler, driver and passenger airbags, traction control and alloys. It's all very predictable. Toyotas are built like tanks. But look at the JD Power survey. The results speak for themselves. They're always near the top, and the Supra is no exception. If you wanted to be pedantic, well, the front shock absorbers could go through enthusiastic use, and the wheel bearings too might take an early bath. But here's a tip if you're thinking about buying a grey import. If you want to verify the age of the car, look at the seatbelt tags, because the year is stamped on them. God's beautiful Milton Keynes and 3 unloved Japanese cars. They're modern, faceless and thoroughly reliable. And until now, we haven't given them the time of day. And all right, I can see why. But scratch beneath the surface and you might just surprise yourself. After all, futuristic anonymity, it's the new cool. So finally I get my hands on the new MG saloons. The ZT, the ZS and the ZR. And I've got an empty racetrack. I think you know what happens next.
I think it's fair to say that the Rover 25 is hardly the most glamorous form of transport. Yes, there is a GTI version, but the best thing about that is its 143 horsepower VVC engine.
And sadly, the best thing about this MG ZR is that same VVC engine, now tuned to give 158 horsepower and tweaked with a rorty, snorty, sporty exhaust note. Now, that I like. What I don't like is this same high driving position which makes you feel disconnected with the road. The fact that the steering wheel can't be adjusted off my knees, and the pedal layout that's diabolical. The clutch pedal sits about 3 inches higher than the brake pedal, and there's no room to the left of it to rest your foot. Now, if you want to develop a car, develop that. The handling is sharper than ever before, but the anti-roll control and damping can't quite seem to keep up with the action. It tends to still pogo about a bit. And a rather lazy turn-in is easily followed by power understeer, which can often see you off the road. But then the ZR is the model that MG intends to take rallying. So if the ZR is a bit agricultural, will the ZS be any better? Well, it needs to be, because this is the model that's going touring car racing. And it gets off to a flying start with the smooth, torquey power delivery of the 2.5-litre V6. It growls away beneath the bonnet and puts you in just the right sort of mood. Sitting a little bit lower, that lack of full steering adjustment isn't quite so noticeable. My knees aren't rammed up into the steering wheel, and the pedals are in the right places, so there's less distraction. I can now really begin to enjoy this car. For a front-wheel drive, it's about the best handling I've experienced. They've really got the balance between front and rear right. The rear, perhaps helped by that big wing, doesn't step out of line if you turn in on a trailing throttle. And the traction is also excellent. So down the gear, turn, find that apex, squeeze in the power. It sits very, very flat on the road. It doesn't feel too harshly sprung. This is sorted. Well, who would have thought the Rover 45 could be so transformed? This MG ZS really is most impressive on the track. But surely they can't have been able to do the same with the old 75. And this MG ZT may look well dressed for the part, but it's not going to like what I'm about to do to it. So, for starters...
Hello, darling. All right, good lad. Show us what you're made of.
We'll see what the driving position in the ZT is like. And now we've got a fully adjustable steering wheel. I sit really low, which I like. This is excellent. No traction control here. Now, although you've got an extra 15 horsepower, you've also got an extra 250 kilos without these two added on to that. So it certainly hasn't got the zippy performance of the ZS, but it has got that same nice flat cornering. It's got very good anti-roll control, and that means you can lay it in and get a little bit sideways in the middle of the corners if you just want to show off and have fun. But when it comes to braking, it definitely hasn't got the stopping power of the ZS. The amazing thing is how manageable it is for what is, let's face it, quite a big saloon. It's not got the big smile factor of a rear-wheel drive Beamer, but it has got amazing levels of grip. It's safe, solid. It's fun.
ZR, small but disappointing. ZS, medium yet brilliant. And the ZT, large but a lot of fun.
So 2 hits and 1 miss. Pretty good for starters.
Here, Tiff, that last corner. Brake harder, go in a bit later.
Big lift off, darling. Quick on the steering.
You can get it more sideways.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me have a go.
On Top Gear next week, high-rolling roadsters. BMW and Mercedes turn up the heat. Company rules, why driving the firm's car could soon cost a lot more. And racing certainties, buying a used Lotus Cortina.